We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Ches Amar Aleph in Meseches Gittin. This is Gittin Daf 58a. The Gemara is continuing a statement from Rabbi Yochanan said by Rava bar bar Chana. Rabbi Yochanan says that there were 40 saw of Ketzutzei Tefillin Nimtzu B'Roshei Haruge Beitar. There were 40 saw of boxes of tefillin that were found on the heads of those who were killed in Beitar. Rabbi Yanai Rabbi Yishmael Amar, Rabbi Yanai Rabbi Yishmael says, Shalosh kupos shal arboim saw. There were actually 3 boxes of 40 saw each. But Masnisotana in the Brisa was taught, arboim kupos, it was 40 boxes, shal shalosh saw, each containing 3 saw. And in any case, the Gemara says, Velo pligi, these accounts are not arguing. Had Dereisha, in one case, we're talking about the boxes of the tefillin shal rosh, and Had Dara, in the other case, we're talking about the boxes of the tefillin shal yad. Rashi explains Ketzutzei Tefillin Defus Tefillin Chutz Min Haratzu means the tefillin besides for the straps, meaning the boxes of the tefillin. Kari Ketzitza, that's called Ketzitza. Kedamrin Meseches Sukkah, like we say in Sukkah, Oches B'Retzua, Ve'eno Oches B'Ketzitza. They use that same language in Meseches Sukkah. Didara Mem Saw. So again, if it's the tefillin shal yad, that was just 40 saw. Udureisha Shem Gedolim, but by the tefillin for the head, those are larger than the tefillin of the arm. Dalid Bottom B'Chol Ketzitza have a Gimel Zimni Mem Saw. So there you have the 4 bottom in each one of the boxes. So there you have 3 times 40 saw. That's why it's 3 times the amount. V'yim Tomar Dalid. Now maybe you'll say it should be 4 times the amount, because again in the tefillin shel rosh you have 4 compartments. Lohi, that's not true. Shabai zechad shel zeroa gadol miachon mibatei harosh, because the one bias of the arm is larger than one of the compartments of the tefillin shel rosh. Lefi shakan kol arba parashios bebai zechad, because when it comes to the tefillin shel yad, you have all 4 parashios that are in that bias. Uve shel rosh, but when it comes to the one compartment, one of the 4 compartments of the shel rosh, parsha achas bebai zechad, you just have 1 parsha in each compartment. But nevertheless, the fuz shel rosh mitoch shetzarach lechalek habotim, but the actual bias of the shel rosh, because you have to divide it up into different compartments, v'lios revech beinein, so there's got to be a little space between them, ukvuan al moshav echad, and then it's all going to be sitting on one area, hutzrach hamoshav lios rachav, so that area that it's settled upon has to be wider, of havel echad shlosha shebizro, and that's why the shel rosh are 3 times as large as the tefillin shel yad. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Asi says, Arboa kabin moach nimtzu al even achas, there were 4 kav of brains that were found on 1 stone. Ula Amar Tishas Kabin, Ula says 9 kav. Amar Rav Kahana v'Tamer Rav Shila bar Mori. Rav Kahana says, and some say Rav Shila bar Mori says, Mikra, what is the pasuk that alludes to this? This is a pasuk in Tehillim. The pasuk says, Bas Bavel Hashaduda, Ashrei Sheyeshalim Loch v'Gomer, Ashrei Sheyoches v'Nipetz, Es Olalayich El Hasol. It talks about the children that were put against the rock. That refers to the children that were killed upon the rock, and that again is the 4 kav or the 9 kav of brains that were upon the rock. And Rashi explains Arboa kav, and again there were 4 kav b'churban bayis rishon. This section here about the children that were killed upon the rock, that's talking about by the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash, as is clear from the pasuk which is brought. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The pasuk in Eicha says, B'nei Tzion hayikarim hamisuloim bapaz. It says the sons of Tzion who are precious, who are covered in fine gold. Mai misuloim bapaz. What does it mean that they're covered in fine gold? Ilema dehave machbi bepizif. It literally means to say that they're covered in this kind of gold. That can be v'amri devei Rabbi Shela, but it was said in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shela, Tarti miskali istri piza nachos bialma, that there were 2 istra weights of this kind of gold that came down to the world. Chada b'Romi v'chada b'kuli alma. There's one of these is in Rome, and the other one can be found dispersed throughout the entire world, meaning there's very little of this kind of fine gold, and it can't be that the Bnei Tzion were covered in this gold. Ela shahayu meganin esapaz biyofion. Rather, it means to say that the Bnei Tzion, the sons of Tzion, were so beautiful that compared to them, they're comparable to the fine gold. Compared to them, the beauty of the gold was nothing. And the Gemara continues along these lines, Meikara chashivi duromoy have enacti bilyona de gushpanka, umeshamshi or sayu. Originally, the important people of Rome, they would take the image on a seal and they would put it in front of them as they were having relations on their beds. The idea was that this way they would have children as beautiful as the image in front of them. Mikan va'elach maisu b'nei Yisrael, v'yasri bekari de purai umeshamshi. But then when they saw the beauty of the sons of Tzion, they brought these Jewish children and they tied them to their beds when they had relations. Amar lechad lechavre. So one of the boys said to his friend, where is this punishment written? Where do we see in the Torah that such a punishment can occur to us? Amar Lei said to him, Gam kol choli v'chol maka, asher lo kasev b'sefer HaTorah hazos. The pasuk says all kinds of sicknesses and all kinds of afflictions can happen to you that are not written, that are not detailed in the Sefer Torah. That's what's happening to us now. Amar, so the other child said, Kama marchikna miduch the plan. How far away am I from getting to that pasuk? I haven't reached that pasuk yet. Amar Lei said to him, Ingid pustu palga, you're just 1.5 columns away from learning that pasuk. Amar Lei, so he said back to him, Imatoi lagabe lo itzrichi lachet. I got into that pasuk, I wouldn't have needed to ask you. It's obvious that that is the source for this punishment that's happening to us. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Mishum Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says in the name of Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, Mai dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? Eini olo lenafshi mikol benos iri. What is it talking about? Benos iri arba meos bati knasios hayu b'krach Beitar. The reference is as follows: there were 400 synagogues in the city of Beitar. V'chol achas v'achas hayu ba arba meos malamde tinokos, and each one had 400 teachers in it, meaning 400 school teachers. V'chol echad v'echad hayu lefanav arba meos tinokos shel beis rab, and each teacher had 400 students. Uchashahaya oyev nichnas l'shaman, when the enemy entered over there, hayu doker osan b'chotrein, so the children fought back and they pierced them with their pens. Uchashagavar oyev, but when the enemy won, v'lachtam, and captured them, karchum b'sifreim, they wrapped them up in the scrolls of their svarim, v'yitzisum ba'esh, and they burned them in the fire. And that's what the pasuk is talking about when it says eini ola lanafshi mikol benos iri. It's talking about the destruction of all of these children. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, Ma'aseh Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya, there was an incident with Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya, Shehalach lekrach gadol sheberomi, he went to a great city in Rome. Amru lo, they said to him, Tinok echad yesh beveiso asurim, there's one child who's imprisoned over here, Yefei einayim v'tov roi, he has nice eyes, he looks good, ukavutzosav seduros lo taltalim, and he has curls in his hair. Halach v'yamar al pesach beiso asurim, so he went and he stood by the entrance of the prison. Amar, and he said the beginning of the following pasuk, he said, Mi nasan l'meshisa Yaakov v'Yisrael lebozizim, that was the beginning of the pasuk. Ana oso tinok, and the child responded with the rest of the pasuk. V'yamar, he said, Halo Hashem zu chatanu lo v'lo avu b'drachav, haloch v'lo shama b'toraso, the punishments happened because we didn't listen to the Torah of Hashem. Amar, so he said, because of the fact the child was able to complete the pasuk, he said, Muftachani bo shemora horab Yisrael, I know for certain that this child will one day issue rulings in Klal Yisrael. Avoda she'eni zaz mikana shavdenu b'chol mamim sheposkin olav. He said, he took an oath, I'm not going to move from here until I redeem him with any amount of money that they ask for. Amru, they said, lo zaz misham, that he didn't move from there at shapadu b'mamon harbe, until he redeemed him. It cost a lot of money. V'lo hayu yamim muatim, it was a short amount of time at shahora horab Yisrael. He was already issuing rulings in Klal Yisrael. Umanu, and who was this individual? Who was this child? Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha, was Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, Ma'asu b'vno v'vito shel Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha. There was an incident with the son and daughter of Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha. Shenishbu l'shnei adonim. They were captured by two different masters. Liyamim nizdavgu shnei b'makom echad. Some days later, the two masters met one another. Zeh Omer, this one said, Yesh li eved shein kiyofia b'chol ha'olam. I have an eved, meaning a child who's a male slave. There's no one as good looking as him in the whole world. V'zeh Omer, and the other one said, Yesh li shivcha, I have a maidservant. Shein b'chol ha'olam kulo kiyofia. Nobody's as good looking as her. Amru, so they said to each other, Bovun u'nesiyem zeh lazeh, let's marry them to one another. V'nechlak b'vlados, and we'll divide up among ourselves. We'll divide up the children as avodim. Hechnisum l'cheder, they brought them into a room. Zeh yasha b'keren zavizeh, v'zu yasha b'keren zavizeh. This one sat in this corner, the other one sat in the other corner. Zeh Omer, this one said, Ani Kohen ben Kohanim Gedolim, I'm a Kohen, the son of Kohanim Gedolim. Esa shifcha, I'm going to marry a maidservant. V'zos Omeres, and the girl said, Ani Kohenes bas Kohanim Gedolim, I'm a Kohenes, the son of the daughter rather of Kohanim Gedolim. Enosei la'eved, I'm going to marry an eved. Uvachu kol halayla, they cried the whole night. Came in sha'ol amud hashachar, when the dawn came. Hikiru zeh, they recognized one another as brother and sister. V'naflu zeh al zeh, they fell upon one another. V'go b'v'chi, and they cried at sheyatz nishmasan, until they died. V'alein konen Yirmiyah, it's about them that Yirmiyah laments al eila ani bochia, eini yorda mayim, the pasuk al eila ani bochia, he cries over this incident. And the Gemara continues, Amar Reish Lakish says, Maisa Bisha Achas v'Tzafnas Bas Peniel Shema. There was an incident with one woman, and her name was Tzafnas Bas Peniel. Tzafnas, she was called Tzafnas, she called Sofan Biyafya, because everybody looked at her beauty. She was beautiful. Bas Peniel, she was called Bas Peniel, Bito Shel Kohen Gadol, because she was the daughter of the Kohen Gadol, Sheshimesh Lifnai v'Lifnim, who served inside the Beis HaMikdash and the Kodesh Kadoshim. Shenisal Bo Shavoy Kol Halayla, and her captor abused her the entire night. L'mocher El Bisha Shiva Chalukim, and the next day he had her wear 7 garments. V'otzia l'mocher, he took her out to sell her. Ba'adam echad sheyemechur b'yoser, a particular individual who was very disgusting. He came. Amar lo, he said to him, Hareini as Yofia, show me how beautiful she is. Amar lo, he said to him, Reika, empty one. Imatarotza likach kach, if you want to purchase her, purchase her. Shein ki Yofia b'chol ha'olam kula, no one's as beautiful as her. Amar lo, he said to him, Afal pichein, nevertheless, I want to see. Hefshita shisha chalukim, so he took off 6 of the garments. Ushvi karatav v'nispal shabefer, but the 7th one, she took it off herself, she tore it off, and she rolled in the dirt. Amra Lefanav, she said, Ribbono Shel Olam, master of the world, Imaleinu lo chasta al kedusha shimcha hagibor lama lo sachos. If you don't have mercy on us, at least you should have mercy on the kedusha, on the sanctity of your mighty name. V'oleh konen Yirmiyah, it's about her that Yirmiyah lamented, Basami chigri sak v'spalshi be'efer, again talking about rolling in the dirt. Avel yachid asilach mispeit tamrurim ki pisom yavo hashode dolenu. It says that the person, the enemy, comes upon us. Alecha lo nemer, doesn't say upon you. Ela aleinu, comes upon us. Kiviyachol, as if to say, Alayvi olecha bashode, that the plunder is coming not only against us, but coming against HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. That's what she was saying, Kedushas Shimcha Hagibor, that you should have mercy on the holiness of your name. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, Mai dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? V'yashku geveru beiso v'ish v'nachloso, talks about they oppress the person and his household. Maisaba Damecha, there was an incident with an individual, Shanasan Einov Be'eshas Rabo, V'shulya Denagri Have. He set his eyes upon the wife of his teacher. He was a carpenter's apprentice. Pamachas Hutzrich Rabo Lalavos, there was a time when his teacher, he needed to borrow money. Amar lo, so the apprentice said to him, Shagar Ishtocha Etzli, send your wife to me. Valvenan, I'll lend you money. Shigar Ishto Etzlo Shoy Ima Shlosha Yomim. He sent his wife to him, and she was with him for 3 days. Kadamu Etzlo, then he came to him. Amar lo, he said to him, Ishti Shashigarti Loch, Eichon, where's my wife that I gave to you? Amar lo, he said to him, Ani Patartia La'alter, I let her go immediately. Veshamati Shatinokos Nesalu Babaderech, but I heard that the young men, they were acting with her in an inappropriate fashion on the road. Amar lo, so then the teacher said, Moesa, what should I do? Amar lo, so the apprentice said to him, if you're going to listen to my advice, Girshi, you should divorce her. Amar lo, he said to him, Ksubasa Maruba, she has a very large ksuba, I can't divorce her. Amar lo, so the apprentice said, Ani alvecha, so I'll lend you money, v'tein la ksubasa, and then you can give her the ksuba. Amad zev girsha, so now the teacher went ahead and he divorced her. Halachu v'nasa, and the apprentice came and he went and married her. Kevan she'igiyaz manav v'lohaya lolaparo, then the time came, but the teacher was not able to pay up the debt. Amar lo, he said to him, Bava say imi b'chovcha, come and you can pay me back by working for me. Vayohem yoshvim v'ochlim v'shosim, now they were sitting and eating and drinking, meaning the apprentice and his now wife. V'oya omenu mashkalein, and the old teacher, he was standing and he was serving them, he was giving them to drink. Vayudemos noshros me'enov v'noflos b'kosein, and his tears were dropping from his eyes, falling in their cups. V'alousa shah nischatim gezar din, and it was because of that moment that the gezar din, the decree, was sealed against the Jewish people. V'amrila, and there are those that say al shtei pesilos b'ner echad, it was because there were 2 wicks in 1 candle, and that's a reference to the adultery that occurred in this situation. And Rashi says, Shtei psilos b'ner echad, again, eishes ish, that's the avera of eishes ish, this avera of adultery. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Lokach min ha-sekrikon v'chulu, it says if he buys it from the sekrikon and then afterwards tries to buy it from the original owner, so we say that the sale is void, that's not considered a good sale. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav says, Lo shanu ela da'amar lo lechazeko kani. That's only true if the original owner says, go take possession. He's only saying that because he's forced, he's pressured by the Sakari. Aval b'shtar kana, but if he already writes up a document to the individual, so that's a good kinyan, that shows he really wants to sell it. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, Af b'shtar nami lo kana, even a shtar also does not create a good acquisition, at sheyichtov lo achrayas, until he also writes to achrayas, meaning he takes responsibility. If any of my creditors should take this property away from you, then I'm responsible. So only if he writes up that kind of achrayas, only then is it a good sale. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis.